Welcome back, everybody. Final half hour of the week. Just looks cold from that shot here, which is unfortunate for all of our spring sports teams. They got into a groove this week. They were finally able to get outdoors, whether it was golf, whether it was soccer, whether it was softball or baseball. In fact, our next guest, they were actually playing yesterday, I'm sure in shirt sleeves out in West Fargo, and now they need about 8 layers if they were to try to play today. It's great to have Quinn Irey back with us. Horace, head baseball coach, as the Hawks off to a great start. They swept West Fargo yesterday. Were you out in shirt sleeves, I imagine, right? Coaching third base?
It's kind of funny how that game started. We were, in our short sleeve shirts and had a pretty good sweat going. I think game time temp at the start was close to 80.
Yeah.
And then by the time that second game started, everyone started putting their layers on and jackets. And I almost put a stocking hat on. So I don't know if I've ever seen quite a swing in weather in a matter of an hour and a half over a doubleheader of baseball. So, but no, glad we got both games in last night.
Well, we were visiting off air. You're supposed to play today. How early did you figure out this week that, we're not playing today?
Yeah, I've been texting Nate Silleru, the head coach at Fargo South, back and forth. And, the big thing is we're trying to, obviously take care of our athletes as far as arm care, and playing in these types of conditions is not going to be ideal. So we were texting earlier in the week that, Friday forecast does not look great at all. Let's try and play our conference games when it's nice out if we can. We obviously have restrictions when it comes to weather and the real feel. And I think the real field today is going to be like 13 at game time it was supposed to be. And no, I really want some of my guys out there trying to throw 80 plus in that kind of weather.
You're a Bismarck native. What is the coldest game you can remember playing?
Oh, this probably goes back to when I think this was probably our first year as a varsity.
Okay.
We were playing down in the border battle, and this was one of the first times that we had been on a field as a team, and we were playing in Harrisburg, and that's when Kason Borkart came in, like the first time I ever saw him play, essentially. He's out there in short sleeve, no undershirt even under his jersey, just a jersey top. And that was probably one of the colder games that I can ever remember being a part of.
Wow.
So as far as a coach, we played a triple header in Omaha against Bellevue at one point in time. And that was miserable as well, cold and rainy, and that was
triple header.
We played a triple header in college. Yeah, got to get those games in when you can. So.
Were you catching that day?
I did. Yeah,
all of it.
Caught one, took one off, and then caught the last one. So that's just the nature of the beast when you play spring baseball up in the north.
Now here's my radical thought. I'm curious. What if we started now? Your first day of practice isn't March 20th. It's April 1, and we go to the second week of June. Would there be traction from your other EDC coaches on this and guys out in the WDA about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that as coaches. We have our annual EDC coaches meeting. We have our annual state meeting of coaches at the state tournament. It's something that's been brought up. I just don't know, as far as some of the legalities with athletes playing when school is out of session, especially in West Fargo. We're done with school on May 21st. So we could potentially, if we were to push it back, be 3, possibly 4 weeks playing, when we are out of school. So that would kind of change things a little bit as far as some of the restrictions we would have on practice times and travel and all those limitations. But as far as weather is concerned, we've never really been able to play in March, obviously, unless it's kind of a rarity. So I think it would be for the better if we could do that, but obviously it would be pushed back from the Legion programs in the state, just because they're trying to get their season started too. So maybe there could be some sort of compromise where we start a week or two later and, not try and step on the toes of the Legion program, but it would benefit the high school program big time if we were able to do that.
I always feel, Quinn, for the spring sport athletes, they just have to have everything compressed. Like you mentioned in college, you had to play a triple header. That's not fair. The fall athletes never have to worry about that. Why does spring always get hosed is what I always come back to.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just, like I said, part of the difficulty of playing baseball up in this part of the country is that you just don't have a lot of predictability in what the weather is going to be like. And you just kind of got to adapt to it and understand that both teams have to play through it. And, make the most of it. So hence why we planted about 75 trees around our baseball park. So when I'm old and gray and retired, then we can enjoy watching the game with all that wind block down there.
Tell me about this year's team. Obviously, high expectations, knowing on the outside what you had back. What is it like here for the Hawks in 2025, knowing that everybody's probably looking at your team saying, boy, they're going to be the ones that maybe can win this thing in Minot come the end of May?
Yeah, I mean it's exciting for sure. Just being that, you look at this year's senior class, we have 11 seniors on our 17-man roster. So they've kind of taken their lumps. This was the group that when they were freshmen, they started our first varsity team. So they've definitely taken their lumps at that first year, but they've also understood that, as they've gotten bigger, faster, stronger, been able to get that experience playing at the varsity level, that, they can play with the best of them, and not only the EDC, but in the state. So now it's kind of our time to maybe go improve that a little bit, that, we can maybe put a name out there for ourselves. And we haven't played, up to our ability, I'd say, in the postseason the last couple of years. We made it to the state tournament, but probably not the result that this team realistically should be with how we are on paper. No, just a lot of guys up and down the lineup that can do some damage at the plate. We got a very deep pitching staff, but we also have a mix of some sophomores that are getting their first taste of varsity, and so that's great to see them out there, between Sioux Falls and playing in some of our conference games this week. So we have a good mix, and the kids do really well with each other as far as just supporting each other and understanding what their role is on the team.
How have you seen Kaysen handle things differently? You were last on when he committed to Oregon, so how has he handled things since life changed for him 6 months ago?
I mean, if no one knew that he was committed to Oregon baseball, you would still. It's the same player that he was his sophomore year and his junior year. That he approaches every day that he's going to do what he can to get himself better. And him and I have talked a little bit about. He made some adjustments with his swing. A few different grips he's been working on as far as his changeup and his breaking ball. So he's always looking for things that are going to make his game better and what he's going to do to elevate that. So that's been really fun to see. And he's off to a great start. Obviously, last night he, hit 3 out over at Youngfield against West Fargo. And I mean, it's really fun to just watch him go and compete, because he just he loves to play the game. He loves to, represent our program. He does so in a great manner. So it's been really fun to watch him. And like I said, not only is he one of the most talented players in our program, he's probably one of the most hardworking as well.
How much are you just sitting back and enjoying this, saying, hey, I've got like 2 more months to enjoy it and just soaking it in?
Oh, that's the great thing too, is that this is, now that we have kind of gotten to this point where we have a pretty large senior class, and they've kind of been able to enjoy it a little bit more, maybe play with a little less pressure on themselves. And that's something I've always kind of challenged them with, is being able to play loose and being able to play going to win the game and not playing to lose. Essentially, they were sometimes playing timid or trying to, play in a way that they're not going to make mistakes. So now they're out there, playing in a way that is competitive and loose, but it's really fun and tons of energy in the dugout. And yeah, it's fun to be around. So they're a really great group of kids.
Sorry, I got an email to ask you about going back to Kaysen. Is it legit chance that he could hit and pitch at Oregon, or are they going to make him choose one or the other?
In my conversation with him, one of the reasons that he chose Oregon between some of the other schools that were talking to him is because they want him to be a two-way. They want him to both to pitch and hit, because they see potential. I mean, he, last night I would say he threw against West Fargo and he was upper 80s, maybe got into the low 9s, and just his ability to drive runners in, hit the ball at an extremely high level, his barrel contact, and that's one of the things that was attractive to him, is that he wanted to both pitch and hit. So
are games when he throws, Quinn, are there more people there? Do you notice, hey, he's going, there's more people in attendance?
I definitely notice more people asking me now, like, oh, when it's in subtle passing at school or whatever. It's like, oh, when's Borkhardt throwing? Because then they'll see a few more students that maybe wouldn't be at a game when it's 45 degrees, but they're out there because they want to go watch Kaysen throw. Because he's fun to watch. It's the ball just pops out of his hand, and it's it's pretty cool. So cool that I get to kind of sit back and watch him go to work.
What's the hardest throwing pitcher you ever caught? Who would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a few guys that I caught when I was with the Red Hawks. We had a closer. Can't think of his. I think it was Sermo was his last name, but I caught him on a rehab assignment when we had lost out of college, the national tournament. The next weekend, I went to Fargo and did kind of like a tryout with Coast and their whole front office staff. And I remember getting into the cage. I'm going to catch him on field, and Coast looks at me and he goes, "If you can catch this guy, you can catch anybody." I think the first pitch he threw was like 97, then 98, and he kept on ramping it up. And this is a rehab assignment, so he could get into the triple digits pretty easily. So that was the hardest guy that I ever caught.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you caught Kaysen?
I mean, at practice once in a while, if a catcher's over in the cages, I'll go in there and I still bring my glove to practice or whatever if they need a guy. So it's fun, and I like it too because then I get to give them a little bit of feedback when I'm behind the plate, and I can see a little bit of does his ball have some arm side run? Is it cutting? Is it sinking? Whatever the pitch is doing, it kind of give a little bit of some corrective feedback in that form, just like I did when I was catching in college and with Fargo. That you can kind of give that direct feedback of what you're seeing right behind the plate.
When you were with the Red Hawks, was there anybody like, wow, I have no idea where this is going? Like when the guy was on the mound, has anybody come to mind? You don't have to name names.
No, I will name names. There was a guy that I caught. His name was Benji Waite. He was a power sinker pitcher, and he didn't throw all that hard. I mean, he was probably in the low 90s, but his ball came in like a bowling ball, and it was either going to cut or have some arm side run, but then sink on top of it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was an extremely difficult guy to catch because he was max effort every pitch. To quote Bob Uecker, I did a lot more chasing than catching when I was behind the plate with him. So, man, he was tough.
That's a great story. I have to ask, by the way, for people that don't know, in a former life, you played hockey. When's the last time you put the skates on?
Oh, I think the last time I laced up the skates was some Bismarck High School alumni game. I'll go back in because my brother and my cousins, they all played at Bismarck High, and my uncle as well. So we try to have an Irey line, get out there and play in the alumni game. But no, I have not laced them up in quite a while. But now that I have two little girls at home, it's going to be a battle between if they're going to be hockey players or basketball players.
Oh, okay. Well,
hopefully get them on the right track to put on the skates.
So you can brag though. I remember your Bismarck team when you guys won the state title. It was the first time in 20 years that a West team won. What do you remember about that? When you guys winning that in 2014?
I just remember the group of seniors that we had because a lot of us were multi-sport athletes playing hockey and baseball. And we had been to the state tournament all 4 years for hockey, and we had never been able to get past that first round. So that was kind of the more nerve-wracking game for us. Is like we've lost in the quarterfinals in overtime, double overtime, triple overtime to Grafton my junior year. We just could not find a way to get past that first round game. And once we got past that, I was like, okay, we're smooth sailing now. Even in the championship game, we had 3 different guys that were in the hospital the day of because they had food poisoning. So our starting goalie had an IV about 2 hours, before the game. He had an IV drip going. So those are things that you remember, but no, just that group, because then we were able to go out and win, state high school baseball and state legion that year. So we just were very close group, and still talk to a lot of those guys as well.
Especially winning it in Grand Forks against, was it Central that year? I can't remember.
It was Grand Forks Central.
That was pretty darn cool. It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. I hope you get to play on Monday, and we'll catch up later in the year, okay?
Sounds good, Dom. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you, bud. There he is, Quinn Irey, head coach of the Horace Hawks baseball team, off to an unbeaten start in the EDC. Scheduled to play Monday against Davies. Next weekend, heading out to Minot for a tournament out there to preview the Class A tournament, which you'll see live on our networks at the end of next month, is in Minot. Class A softball out there as well. The Class B returns to Jamestown this year, and of course we'll have coverage of that, of soccer, and of tennis to wrap up the North Dakota high school spring sports season about 5-6 weeks from now. to wrap up the year. We're going to wrap up the show. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll put a bow on things and get you ready for a great sports weekend. Hot Mike concludes after this on WDAY Extra.